Man, a pelvis fractured in 2 places, multiple fractured ribs, causing a punctured lung and internal bleeding, and a fractured collarbone. Grandma Peters! And after arriving home, I learned from a third party that she had been strip searched and placed in solitary confinement because she filed a grievance. So then they attack her again. I later learned from Mrs. Peters that Warden Werlick, whom I was not allowed to talk to, had personally come to her and said, guess what, Tina? You're going to solitary, because these people are sick monsters. Tina Peters needs an answer immediately. She has been held in prison for quite some time for questioning a stolen election, and now her defense team is submitting a bunch of filings saying things are getting pretty dire from inside the prison. And so they just sent this one in over the holiday break. They said, hey, we need an expedited decision on what's going to be coming out of your court, saying applicant Tina Peters, through her lawyer, moves the court to issue an immediate opinion and order granting her release on bond. Here's why. On November 29th, man, just over the Thanksgiving break, Mrs. Peters, Tina, was notified that her 97-year-old mom suffered a catastrophic life-threatening injury. Man, a pelvis fractured in 2 places, multiple fractured ribs, causing a punctured lung and internal bleeding, and a fractured collarbone. Grandma Peters! Presently, Mrs. Peters' mother is in intensive care at an out-of-state hospital undergoing emergency surgery. In addition, this court should also be aware that since Mrs. Peters' initial arrest in 2022, she remained in the Mesa County Detention Facility for approximately 37 hours. During that period, her dad died. She was unable to be present with him or with her family. She's in prison, dad dies. Now mom's dying. The prospect of now losing her mother while still incarcerated as a result of proceedings that she contends violate her constitutional rights would be an extraordinary and irreparable hardship. So this honorable court stated back in October that you would do your best to issue an expedited opinion and order. However, there was a government shutdown. Now we've got a backlog. Now we have no order. Mrs. Peters respectfully requests immediate release on bond, pending her appeal to allow her to travel to be with her mother, whose condition is currently life-threatening given her age and severity. Now, Mrs. Peters has been fully briefed. She agrees. We'd like to have her released on bond, so please allow that to happen. Signed by Peter Tickton and others on behalf of Tina Peters. But there's more. Here's a declaration. This one came in from this woman called Marceline, who has power of attorney over Tina. Says, I, Marceline, acting under valid power of attorney, can tell you this is all true. On November 29th, I got a phone call from Elizabeth Westbrook, the mother of Tina Peters. She informed me she had lost her balance and fell. She was transported to a hospital, fractured hip in 2 places, fractured collarbone, 2 broken ribs, internal bleeding, on a ventilator, emergency surgery, being closely monitored, considering pneumonia. She's in the ICU, and so please let Tina out to go see her mother. Now, they want to file some other documents under seal, showing some medical stuff that actually went down over there, and we know that Tina Peters is also not doing well. They're just amended this other motion. They say, we also are telling you that she's currently in intensive care even after undergoing surgery. We got proof of hospitalization. We just sent that in. So if you could please issue an expedited order, like kick this one to the top of the pile, says we respectfully request immediate release on bond because now mom is not doing well. Now, there's also more. Apparently, Tina Peters has been shoved in solitary confinement forever. At 6:45 back on November 20th, so not long ago, her defense team, Tina Peters, got a telephone call from Mrs. Tina Peters. She sobbed. She said that she had been moved to solitary confinement in a concrete cell with no windows because they're treating her in monstrous ways. Now, the reason was because she filed a grievance against the corrections officer, so they're going to punish her. Earlier in the day, the defense met with Tina at the prison from 11:35 until 1 p.m. During the meeting, Miss Peters, Tina, said that she was concerned about her safety and her health. She said that a corrections officer had been discussing her legal case with other inmates during GED classes taught by the corrections officer. One of the inmates who attended the GED classes screamed at Mrs. Peters when Miss Peters asked the corrections officer not to discuss her case during the class. Like, don't single me out, please. She said that she intended to file a grievance against the corrections officer and inmate. She gave me a handwritten copy of the grievance, and the names are redacted. She also gave me 2 handwritten statements with also the names redacted. She said that it was inappropriate for the corrections officer to single her out. The rules say, don't do that. Don't single me out. Don't talk about my case in front of the other inmates. She said that inmates applying for parole must complete GED courses. That's why she's doing that. She said that many inmates were denied parole because classes were canceled, so they can't even complete their GEDs. A corrections officer supervised our visit from behind a glass window, says this lawyer. At the end of the visit, counsel, the lawyer, said to the corrections officer, says, Mrs. Peters has safety concerns. May I please speak with the watch commander? Corrections officer said, no, you have to schedule an appointment. So then the lawyer says, I then asked the corrections officer if I could meet with the warden. My paralegal, Linda, visited Miss Peters. During that visit, the warden entered the room. Mrs. Peters said that the warden had invited Miss Good to contact him. When I asked to meet with the warden, they said, nope, you got to call him and schedule an appointment. And we did, and we haven't heard back. So when I met with her, Miss Peters coughed intermittently throughout 85 minutes. Her complexion was pale. I've known it to not be pale. She said a work crew tried to remove black mold from the shower, and her cognitive function is getting bad. I can tell from just talking to her. I asked Miss Peters about the status of diagnostic tests for lung cancer. She said, I did get an x-ray, but no results yet. She said the nurse also drew blood. She's consulting with an oncologist. And after arriving home, I learned from a third party that she had been strip searched and placed in solitary confinement because she filed a grievance. So then they attack her again. I later learned from Mrs. Peters that Warden Werlick, whom I was not allowed to talk to, had personally come to her and said, guess what, Tina? You're going to solitary, because these people are sick monsters. Undersigned counsel John Case is concerned about her being verbally targeted. Her health has deteriorated. She has undiagnosed cough, possible lung cancer's coming back, pain in her neck, backs, and hips, sleep deprivation, and solitary confinement is ridiculous for just complaining that somebody is acting poorly. So please grant us a ruling on this case signed by John Case as Tina Peters continues to be abused out there in Colorado. Little dumpster fire that has been held hostage by people like Jenna Griswold and their governors, all in favor of illegal aliens and stolen elections. So we're going to continue to pray and pull for Tina Peters, who's being treated like a monster for just challenging a stolen election. Meanwhile, other people who actually break the law, like Jenna Griswold, are now thinking about higher office over there. So prayers up for Tina Peters, her 97-year-old mother, and for justice in Colorado. We'll keep our eye on this one.